God damn, what's up, Danger? Oh man, what's going on, fellas? Welcome back to the channel, man. It's your boy, and for today I wanted to answer one of the most frequently asked questions that I've gotten from you guys on the channel, and that is, who deserves which CTP? This is something that I see pretty much on a daily basis. So for today, I wanted to give you guys a list of 32 characters of the 175 that's currently in the game that I personally believe deserves a CTP, because CTPs are very, very rare and very, very costly. So for me, at the very least, whenever I get a CTP, I have to think very carefully before I decide who I want to put it on, because I don't want to have to spend crystals later to take it off that character because I regret my decision, right? But ultimately, this is just my list. So if you don't use any of these characters on the list, then you should definitely not put a CTP on them, because at the end of the day, this game is all about having fun. And if a character is not fun for you, even if the CTP is going to make them 50 times better, chances are you shouldn't put the CTP on them, because you're not going to be having fun with the character, right? For me though, when it comes to gameplay performance, that's all I care about. If a character is not fun to play, but a CTP will make them 20 times better, I'll suck it up, because I want to win, baby. So that's what we're going to look at today, man. 32 different characters that I think deserves a CTP, whether it's a CTP for PvE or a CTP for PvP, because in yesterday's video, we were talking about just how vital timeline battle is, and that is the only PvP game mode that I currently care about. Okay, so that being said, boys, let's jump right into it. This right here is the list of characters that I believe honestly deserves a CTP. I'm gonna walk you guys through the whole list. It's not in any particular order, but I'm gonna tell you guys which CTP I personally believe is best for each and every single one of these characters. Some of these characters, there's only one choice, but others have like 2 or 3 options that will work really, really well for them. So we're gonna go in the order in which this thing has been automatically pre-assembled, and we're just gonna work our way down from Deadpool all the way down to Adam Warlock, who I don't have built yet because I'm saving my gold and my resources to see what happens with the upcoming update. Okay, otherwise he would have been built already. I know some of you guys are looking forward to some Adam Warlock gameplay, and to be honest, so am I. Now, with that being said, let's jump right into it. Deadpool is probably one of the easiest characters to decide on when it comes to a CTP, because there's 2 really good options for him in PvE and 2 really good options in PvP as well, because his kit overall is fan-freaking-tastic. Starting off with the PvP options, the best PvP obelisk for this guy is actually a CTP of Authority. Second to the CTP of Authority is actually the CTP of Refinement. So if you're designing your Deadpool to be a PvP monster, you should definitely go with a CTP of Authority, because Deadpool needs immunity to guard break. But if you don't have Authority, Refinement is your second best option. Moving on to the PvE category, CTP of Energy is the best possible option for Deadpool. If you want to be able to do stage 59 Corvus, 59 Proxima, 29 Thanos, then a CTP of Energy is definitely what you're going to want to go with. However, if you want to double dip in PvP and PvE, the best overall obelisk for that is actually a CTP of Destruction. Personally, I wanted to maximize his PvE potential, so I chose to go with a CTP of Energy. Moving on, we have Captain America. Captain America, similar to Deadpool, there's a multitude of different options for him. 4 options. Okay, we have CTP of Energy if you want to go beast mode in PvE and push really high levels, CTP of Destruction if you want to double dip, or you can go the CTP of Authority or Refinement if you want to use this guy mainly in PvP. Okay, those are all the options for him. Anything else is kind of a waste, to be honest with you guys. Moving on to Sharon Rogers. Sharon Rogers, in my opinion, there's only one singular option for her. That's actually a CTP of Energy. CTP of Energy simply because you want to get the most out of her in PvE. This is not 2 years ago when Sharon Rogers could be played in PvP and she would completely destroy everybody. The meta has changed. right now, in my opinion, even at tier 3, even if you give her a CTP of authority, she's still gonna get stomped out by the majority of the timeline battle gods. Characters like Thanos will still just cut through her like absolute nothingness. So in my opinion, you should definitely stick with a CTP of energy, and you'll be able to push some insane levels in World Boss Ultimate. Moving on, we have Luna Snow. Luna Snow, honestly, she's one of those characters that you ideally don't want to give a CTP to. You should ideally be trying to get double cold damage with a 200% damage proc. However, that is a once in a lifetime obelisk, and you could spend from now until the end of this game trying to roll every obelisk with double cold damage and a 200% proc and never get it. It's that rare, or at the very least to me. Okay, I've spent years trying to get double lightning damage for Thor, still never got it. Okay, I've gotten double lightning damage, but like 100 and 110 proc, 100 proc, 200 proc, never. Okay, so it's probably easier and less costly to go with a CTP of energy. That's the only option. She is not going to be a PvP character. Similar to her sister, Sharon Rogers, you should keep her in PvE, and she's going to be able to push insanely high levels. CTP of energy is what I recommend for her if you cannot get double cold damage with a 200% proc. Good luck, happy rolling. Hopefully you can land one. I'm still trying to get one for myself. Thor, similar to Luna Snow, you should be going with double lightning damage and a 200% proc. But like I told you guys earlier, I've been trying to do that since I started the game. Okay, still haven't gotten one. So the best option for Thor in the CTP department is actually a CTP of destruction, because you're going to get immunity to guard break, which is essential for Thor's kit because the majority of his skills can be guard broken. Hopefully he gets a uniform in the future, probably for endgame, that makes it so that immunity to guard break is no longer necessary. But with all the uniforms that Thor has in the game right now, he always needs immunity to guard break. So as of right now, in my opinion, a CTP of destruction is the best possible option for him. Moving on, we have Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch, similar to Deadpool and Captain America, there's multiple different options. But for me, a CTP of energy is the best PvE option for her. She's going to be able to push insane levels in World Boss Ultimate. And if you want to use her effectively and to her maximum potential in PvP, you definitely want to go with a CTP of authority. Those are the two top choices for me. But you could go with something like immunity to guard break, mind damage, and a 200% proc for PvE. And that would be really good because I'm able to push 58 against Ebony Maw, no CTP. Other players, though, with a CTP of energy are already pushing past 60 against Ebony Maw. So yeah, big difference. Next up is the Purple Raisin, the reigning, defending, undisputed champion of timeline battle, Thanos. And as of right now, the best option for this guy is a CTP of destruction or a CTP of authority. Destruction if you want to double dip in PvE and PvP, and authority if you just want to simply keep him in PvP. Next up is Cable, and the one and only option for Cable is actually a CTP of energy, because you want to get that chain hit damage to make this guy even more of a monster. Moving on, we have Strife. There's two options for Strife in my opinion: authority for PvP and energy for PvE. That is it, nothing else. Moving on, we have Emma Frost. Emma Frost is one of those characters that you want to go full elemental with. You want to go double mind damage and a 200% proc. She doesn't need immunity to guard break simply because she gets super armor on her third skill. However, if you want to use her in PvP and you don't want to rely on triggering the third skill, you should definitely give her a CTP of authority. She's actually very good and very dangerous because of the reflect when you use her in PvP. Next up is Gambit. And the one and only option for Gambit is actually a CTP of energy. Nothing else. I know his survivability is absolute trash. However, just play him properly and he will stay alive, and a CTP of energy is the way to go with this guy. Next up is Psylocke, an incredibly powerful character, one that I absolutely adore, and a character that ideally you should be giving double mind damage and a 200% proc. But like I've been saying, those are once in a lifetime obelisks. You could spend 20,000 crystals, 20,000 crystals rolling, trying to get double mind damage and a 200% proc and never get it. It's probably easier and less costly to give her a CTP of energy. And honestly, at this point, I think that's what I'm gonna do if I can't get double mind damage and a 200% proc, even though I got something close. Next up is actually going to be my guy Angel, and for Angel there's actually 3 options. There's a CTP of Destruction if you want to do PvP and PvE at a very high level, or you can go strictly PvP and give him a CTP of Authority. Otherwise, give him a CTP of Refinement that will synergize with his healing and make him a very formidable character in PvP. Those are the 3 options for him. Next up is Magneto. The number 1 choice for Magneto is actually a CTP of Destruction. However, besides that, if you want to make him a PvP character, since a lot of the characters in PvP are humans, even though mutants are making a big impact right now, you could give him a CTP of Authority and he could probably do very well there. Moving on, we have Quicksilver, and the one and only option for Quicksilver in my opinion is actually a CTP of Energy, nothing else. Moving on, we have Corvus Glaive. This guy actually has multiple different options. You can go with a CTP of Destruction if you want to do PvE and PvP at a very high level. You can give him a CTP of Patience to make him a very annoying character to deal with in timeline battle. You can give him Authority, which is probably the best possible option for PvP, to be honest with you guys. Or if you want to buff his summons and make him slightly offensive while still keeping him defensive, you can go with a CTP of Transcendence like I have on him. Moving on, we have this guy. I know most of you guys are gonna say Black Dwarf is not deserving of a CTP, and you're right. Black Dwarf is not deserving of a CTP. Black Dwarf is dead. Cull Obsidian, however, is deserving. With a CTP of Energy, this guy will cut through some of the hardest content in this game. He's actually really powerful. The only option I would recommend giving him is actually a CTP of Energy if you have them laying around. Obviously, you should prioritize characters like Deadpool, Cable, Quicksilver, Strife, and others before him. Next up is actually Apocalypse, and I know he's kind of wonky and most people hate on him, but he's a very effective character in both PvE and in PvP. There's 3 options for this guy: a CTP of Energy, which I had on him for a while, but Deadpool came to this game and I needed a CTP of Energy, so I pulled that shit right off and gave it to my guy Wade. But a CTP of Energy is very effective for him in PvE. Otherwise, I would say go with Destruction to double dip in PvE and PvP, or you can go with a CTP of Authority. Those are the 3 options for this guy. Next up is actually Jean Grey. Jean Grey, and there's 2 options for Jean Grey in my opinion: a CTP of Destruction to do PvE and PvP at a very high level, or just strictly going with a CTP of Authority. Next up is actually Doctor Strange. Similar to Jean Grey, there's 2 options for this guy: a CTP of Authority for PvP only, and a CTP of Destruction if you want to do PvE and PvP at a high level. But even at a high level, it's not very high because Doctor Strange is not very good in PvE. So I would say Authority is the number 1 choice for Doctor Strange. Next up is actually Black Panther, and as of late I've seen quite a few people running Black Panther with a CTP of Energy for PvE and a CTP of Refinement in PvP. And honestly, I think both of those are poor choices, simply because Black Panther's strongest skill outside of the tier 3 is actually his 5th skill, and his 5th skill can be very easily guard broken, and when this does get guard broken, you lose a ton of damage because the other skills don't deal that much damage. So ultimately, because of that, I think a CTP of Destruction is the best possible choice for him. I know a lot of you guys give him Refinement because he gets a massive HP bump similar to Captain America for PvP, but even then, even with the CTP of Refinement, I still completely destroy T'Challa in PvP. I've never had a Black Panther give me a hard time, even with a CTP of Refinement. If anything, you're probably better off giving him a CTP of Authority for the invincibility. That's just me, okay? Moving on, we have Iron Man. And when it comes to Iron Man, I think the number 1 choice for him is actually a CTP of Energy, where you try to get the damage proc to line up on this 5th skill. However, keep in mind that if you give him a CTP of Energy, you're gonna need to rely pretty heavily on the fact that in the future, every uniform that he gets, which he will be getting multiple in the future, it's Iron Man, baby, has to have super armor, or you're gonna be exposed and you might get guard broken on your 5th, and that's gonna cost you a ton of damage. Okay, so If he doesn't get another uniform that has super armor, then you're probably going to need to plan to eventually give him a CTP of destruction. If you want to buff the summons that he gets for his tier 3 skill, then you probably are better off going with a CTP of transcendence. Those are the two top choices for Iron Man in my opinion. Next up is Rhodey. This guy melts faces. He's so freaking powerful, but he's still hella squishy. The number one choice for this guy, even though a couple of his skills can be guard broken, the main damaging skill, the 5th skill, hits like a freaking truck. So a CTP of energy is actually a really good choice for this guy. Like even with a 130 proc on him, I melt people. Like Tato says, I kill people. Anyways, moving on, we have Ant-Man. If you have this uniform, if you don't have this uniform, then he's definitely not deserving of anything, any love, any attention, nothing, unless he gets something for endgame. But honestly, I think the only CTP that I would give to Ant-Man is actually a CTP of patience to make him extremely annoying to deal with in PvP, because even if you gave him like destruction or energy, he would be a very, very big disappointment in PvE. Honestly, I think him and Spider-Man truly belong in PvP. That's just my 2 cents. Next up, we have Spider-Man. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Okay, Spider-Man, I think the best CTPs for this guy is actually a CTP of destruction, so you can double dip in PvE and in PvP, or you can give him authority for simply being an annoying character to deal with in PvP. Also, CTP of patience is very, very good for him as well, similar to Ant-Man, because then you can max out his dodge to make him a freaking nightmare. Okay, next up, I gotta put my boy Miles on this list. Only if you have this uniform, otherwise he is pure garbage. Otherwise, so please pick up this uniform if you're a fan of Miles Morales. If you are, give him a CTP of energy. He definitely deserves it. He wrecks shit. Okay, super fun to play as well. Next up, Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. I can't wait for this guy to get his white suit, but two of the best options for this guy is probably the CTP of destruction and the CTP of patience, just because with the CTP of destruction you can double dip in PvE and PvP, but to be honest with you guys, he's kind of been left behind in PvE. So I would say a CTP of patience, or if you didn't have a patience, which I didn't at the time, you can give him a CTP of transcendence. This is really good for PvP as well. Next up is actually Winter Soldier, the epitome of what it means to go from a zero to a hero in Marvel Future Fight. However, that is only with this uniform. Without it, he is pure garbage. However, with this uniform, he's an absolute beast, and I highly recommend you give him a CTP of energy. If you have one of those things laying around, he will completely wreck shit. Next up is Ant-Man, and the one and only option I can recommend for this guy is actually a CTP of energy, nothing else. He's not going to be a PvP character, or at the very least, not in my eyes. Next up is actually Loki, and honestly the only option I can recommend for Loki is the one I have on him, a CTP of transcendence to buff your clones and give him more survivability with 5 seconds of invincibility. This is actually the best option for Loki in my opinion. Next up is actually my guy Sam Alexander, and there's 3 options for this guy. The CTP of energy is the best for PvE, so War Boss Ultimate, Alliance Battle, that kind of deal. A CTP of destruction if you want to double dip in PvE and in PvP, and a CTP of authority if you want your opponents to experience what hell looks like. Okay, CTP of authority is the best for this guy in PvP. Lastly, the only character on this list that I don't have completed yet, Adam Warlock. Now, since I don't have him completed, I know some of you guys may doubt my opinion on him. However, I'll face my share of Adam Warlocks in timeline battle, and I can tell you guys this, okay? None of them has ever given me any problems if they're not rocking with a CTP of authority. If they have a CTP of authority, they're incredibly annoying to deal with. So freaking annoying. So I have to recommend a CTP of authority for this guy. If I ever get one, he's probably high up on my list on which character I'm going to give it to immediately. He's super freaking annoying. Super annoying. But yeah guys, that is my list of the top 32 characters that I recommend you give a CTP to. I know there's a couple other characters down here that are deserving of a CTP, but this is just my top 32, okay? If you have a different list, please feel free to leave it in the comments. If you think some of these characters don't deserve to be here, let me know who you think don't deserve a CTP. Anyways, man, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Peace out.